Traded over here because of Sanchez success.
Here's a ground ball right side, could do it. The Houston Astros are world champions for the first time in franchise history.
Well, that's how the 2017 Major League Baseball season came to an end as we break down the 2018 Major League Baseball season inside our Motel 6 studios. We'll keep the light on for you along with Jay Holloway. My name is Chris Sylvester, and you listen to that final out at Dodger Stadium, the Astros in Game 7, winning their first ever World Series championship, capping off one of the most entertaining World Series in recent memory. Of course, you had that wild Game 5 in Houston that went back and forth. So many runs combined in that game before Alex Bregman finally walked off on Kenley Jansen in extra innings. Then you had the Dodgers come back to Los Angeles, win Game 6. Everybody thought the Dodgers were in prime position to win Game 7 at home, but Yu Darvish continued to tip his pitches. The Astros had hit him well even when he was in Texas earlier in the season, and that translated well into the World Series for them. A feel-good story, understanding everything that had happened with that city a couple of months prior, but my goodness, I mean, sending baseball into the offseason off of that World Series made it that much tougher, I'm sure, for baseball fans to have to wait all this time. But here we are. Opening day 2018 is tomorrow, and this is just about as excited as I've been for a Major League Baseball season that I can remember over the past decade or so.
I believe so, Chris. A couple of things. We mentioned last show, about the more runs in the postseason. There's a concern about, are the balls being juiced, or are the pitchers giving easy fastballs a hit out of left field? You're seeing pretty much the other guys have superstar-like years. The MVP was George Springer. Good play. Not a great player, but he's really good. But he had a couple of bombs off Darvish and off Kershaw in the World Series and won for his team last year.
And what's scary about the Houston Astros is everybody, for the most part, outside of maybe Justin Verlander on that team, young guys in their prime or just getting into their prime. You're talking about George Springer, Carlos Correa, Jose Altuve, the big three, the three-headed monster. Of course, about 10-plus years ago, you had the triple Bs, the killer Bs. You had Bagwell, Biggio, and Beltran. I think this is a much more powerful three-headed monster, if you will, moving forward. And they're all young. They're all, if not in the midst of their prime, getting to their prime, and that's scary for the rest of Major League Baseball. On the 2018 MLB Preview Plus prediction show here on Spreaker.com, the national sports radio station, we'll be giving you our division winners. We'll be giving you our World Series outcome, of course. We'll give you our MVP predictions in both the American League and National League, along with Cy Young and Rookie of the Year award. Once again, my name's Chris Sylvester. You can get at me on Twitter at @ChrisSylvester_. With me is Jay Holloway. He is not a Dodger fan, but he is at Black Vin Scully on Twitter. And don't try and spell black with a CK. It's BLACQ, right?
BLAQVINSC.
BLAQ.
Yes.
BLAQ.
VIN.
And
Scully.
And you're repping the Scully shirt.
That's right.
You're getting ready for the start of the season.
I am ready. I'm ready for it like it was yesterday.
All right, let's start with the American League and the defending national champions. We'll start with the American League West, and we'll get into all the moves that the Angels made, what the Rangers did, Mariners, as well as the Oakland Athletics here in the offseason. But as you take a look at the Astros, everybody is always so hot to pick the team that won the previous season to win it the next season based off of what they showed us towards the end of last season. Obviously, I think baseball is one of the tougher sports to predict, especially at the professional level, because you have to endure a 162-game regular season on the heels of about a month of spring training action, and then, of course, the postseason lasts a little over a month as well. So it's a lot to endure, a lot for guys to stay healthy, for consecutive seasons. That's why I think at the major league level, so rarely do you see not only teams winning back-to-back World Series championships, but you rarely, if ever, have World Series rematches in back-to-back seasons.
Well, I think also in recent memory, you now see more players have more control of their contracts, so they go different teams because they want more money. So you have less of a team makeup based on the salary cap. There is no salary cap in MLB, so it's more of a free reign for players to get paid. They can get paid if a good year, the previous year, they can go from Houston to Seattle. There's no problem. So you have more players now getting their dough instead of staying with a team 10, 15 years, whether good or bad, which is good for the player perspective, obviously.
Well, as you take a look at the Astros and what they roll into 2018 with, the core is still there.
Yes.
No major losses for this team throughout the offseason. A projected starting outfield for Houston is going to be Gonzalez out and left. Of course, he had the big home run to extend Game 2, which really turned that series in the Astros' favor heading back to Houston. Of course, George Springer in center field. Josh Reddick really underachieved for the most part in the World Series. Houston still able to get the job done without the production he provided for them throughout the regular season. I really like Alex Bregman in the future he's going to have. I thought the Astros rushed him to the major league level at first, but he was such a big part of their World Series championship last year. He's their third baseman. Of course, you have Carlos Correa, the MVP Jose Altuve at second, and Yuli Gurriel, the controversial Yuli Gurriel, is going to sit at the first 5 games or so of 2018 with the gesture he made towards Yu Darvish in the World Series last year. But he can certainly hit for power over at first base, and he's a good defender as well. Brian McCann is steady as it gets behind the plate, a veteran presence. He can also swing it. And then you take a look at the rotation where I really feel like the Astros upgraded. Obviously, Justin Verlander coming back for a full season. Dallas Keuchel, if he can repeat what he did a couple of seasons ago when he won the Cy Young, that'll be a bonus for this Houston team. I think everybody likes the future that Lance McCullers Jr. has ahead of him. He got the nod in Game 7 of that World Series. And then you bring in Garrett Cole. Now, Garrett Cole, the past couple of seasons, he's had a couple of health issues. He hasn't put up the numbers that he did when he first broke into the league with the Pittsburgh Pirates. But a lot of people forget that this guy was a very high draft pick of Pittsburgh coming out of UCLA, an electric fastball. He certainly still has ace-type stuff. He's slotted in as their number 4 right now heading into the season. This probably is the best 1 through 5 rotation in Major League Baseball, and you can make an argument that their batting order 1 through 9 is darn near the top as well.
I would agree, and a good thing for Cole is that he's not the main guy anymore. He was sort of, i.e., rushed in Pittsburgh to be the guy, to be their ace, and he was maybe too young or not ready for that spot yet. It didn't work. So now he's in Houston, no pressure on him, just to do his job and just give at least 6 innings of work without minor damage on the field. So he has a perfect ideal, a win-win for him as a 4th guy for the Astros this year.
Yeah, and then Morton in that 5th spot. I mean, how big was he down the stretch in the postseason in 2017? So you have to like what the Astros are bringing to the forefront with their starting rotation. The question marks certainly still surround the bullpen. They did add Joe Smith, the submariner, if you will. He came over from the Cleveland Indians. Their run came up short in 2017. Giles was solid for the most part in the regular season, sort of faltered in the postseason. Davinsky and Harris, good arms in the bullpen. Just a matter of can they stay healthy and can they stay durable production-wise through the course of a 162-game season on top of what Houston hopes is another postseason run.
Now, the one concern you may have if you're A.J. Hinch for the Astros, can you not overtax your bullpen? Because we saw last year in the World Series, the bullpen in the ALCS and against the Dodgers, they were both really taxed, and you saw them get, may say, overworked, and they had some lowlights, national spotlights. So if they are somewhat not fatigued entirely, they should be fine. But if they're overworked in the regular season, that may be a problem going forward into October.
And I don't think there's any question here as we move along in the American League West. We're both in agreement that the Astros are going to win the division,
yes,
right?
By far.
Now, the Angels, of course, made a lot of noise in the offseason, of course, winning the Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes, also adding veterans Ian Kinsler and Zach Cozart to the mix as well. Added Jim Johnson to the back end of their bullpen. The Angels are an intriguing team. They were in it till the finish as far as the wild card was concerned last season, and that was without Mike Trout for a couple of months in June and July of last season. So you figure with a full season of Trout, a full season of Justin Upton, who they were able to re-sign in the offseason, this is going to be one of the more exciting offenses in Major League Baseball. My issue with the Angels doesn't exactly stem from the rotation. It's a rotation that has had a number of health issues dating back to as early as the end of last season. Can Garrett Richards stay healthy? When he is healthy, I believe he's a true number one. Garrett Richards, an explosive fastball, great off-speed pitches, but he hasn't stayed healthy for the entirety of a season now for 3 seasons. It's been a long time since we saw Garrett Richards start in April and finish off at the end of September with little to no health issues, which is hard for any starting pitcher, especially in his late 20s, early 30s, to do. But Richards, it has been especially tough for him to stay on the mound. If he stays on the mound, and if he can get a little help from his friends Tyler Skaggs, Andrew Heaney, the two southpaws, Matt Shoemaker, if he can return to that 2014 form where he finished second in Rookie of the Year voting behind Jose Altuve, and of course you have Shohei Ohtani, and a lot of folks are already counting out Ohtani after his rough spring. I think you have to take a lot of things into considerations. More times than not, when you have players come over from Japan, you have guys in their late 20s that are a bit more seasoned, a bit more mature, veterans that have gone through it a few more times than Ohtani has at 23 years old. You also have the elbow issue with Shohei Ohtani, which I'm not all that concerned about, but it may be an issue down the road in a season or two. He's got great stuff. There's no question about that. That's why everybody coveted him. Everybody said that if he would have come here 2 years later, he would have received a $200 million contract. He can, of course, hit as well. That didn't go well either this spring for Ohtani. But I think it'll be a couple months before he really gets settled in. It's a new country. It's a new league. All the spotlight is shined on him throughout the winter. What do you expect from this Angels team, the rotation, and more specifically Ohtani here in 2018?
Well, I wouldn't say concerned, but I am a bit worried about, i.e., number one, health of Richards, and also you mentioned Tyler Skaggs. He's good as well, but he too has a problem with injuries. If they're healthy, so optimistic side, if they're healthy, they should be at least fighting for second place in AL West, because Houston is way up there, better than Angels, obviously, by far. If not, they might hang around second, third with Seattle, but it all depends on, can Ohtani give them at least a number 2 like stat numbers.
Absolutely.
Because injuries do come to play. So if Ohtani's good on the mound, hitting will come. He's a young guy. Hitting will come at some point this year, whether in April, in July, September, that will come. But you need to have pitching from April until late September.
Yeah, and the biggest issue I foresee for this Angels team, and we'll get into our predictions whether or not we see the Angels slotting into a wild card slot come the end of the 2018 regular season, the bullpen. They don't have a proven closer heading into the season for the first time in a long while. Greg Holland is still out there. I really like that fit, but it really seems like Billy Epler, the general manager, is not inclined to go after Holland right now. He's sort of sticking in-house Cam Bedrosian, Keenan Middleton, young guys with electric arms, but young guys in the back end of the bullpen can be troublesome at times, especially when there's so much pressure on this team. Mike Scioscia's in the final year of a contract. Mike Trout, the growing optimism that he could wind up as the best player of all time, but also the growing question amongst other teams. Well, Trout's going to be a free agent in 2-3 seasons from now. what's his future going to look like? Is he going to stay with the Angels? Of course, the Angels are making moves to win and to win now in 2018, but there's a lot of pressure on this ball club this season, and to have unexperienced guys pitching in close games in the 8th and 9th innings, I don't know how well that's going to fare for the Angels in 2018.
Well, if I put my GM cap on, Chris, you may have to sign the experienced Greg Holland because you need someone that's been there in a tight game, pressure on your back, you have to get it out, and you cannot make a bad pitch. Holland is good in those points in a ball game. They have nice pieces in the bullpen right now, but they're very young and experienced. They're going to make some mistakes that may cost you a couple of games for that wild card spot in 2018.
Let's move along here to the Pacific Northwest we go. The Seattle Mariners, they made a few adjustments throughout the offseason, bringing in D. Gordon, which was a surprising move considering he has played in the middle infield his entire career. The Mariners have moved him into center field, and if you had a chance to watch any spring training baseball, boy, D. Gordon's got a heck of an arm out there in center field. We all know the presence that he brings to the plate at the top of your batting order, also on the base paths as well. The Mariners also brought in Ryan Healy from the Oakland Athletics, who was certainly a guy that can hit the ball out of the ballpark from time to time. And you take a look at the rotation for the Mariners, certainly can't complain about the 1-2 punch they have with King Felix and the big maple James Paxton up there, one of the better emerging southpaws in all of Major League Baseball. You get Mike Leake for a full season, and then a couple of question marks beyond that in the rotation. The bullpen for the Mariners, Jerry DiPoto, now the general manager up in Seattle, still got the young Diaz at the back end of the bullpen, but they did bring in Nicasio this offseason. Not sure how steady the back end's going to be there for Seattle, but always a team that seems to frustrate others in the division. Ichiro's back, obviously not in the type of role he was when he first broke into Major League Baseball at the turn of the century with the Mariners, but a pesky team that can make some noise this season.
Yeah, they're a solid team. They're not flashy. They're not overpowering. They're just solid. Very much a good threat in the AL West, but they're not going to make a lot of noise because of what they have on the roster. I mean, yes, you have Cano and Cruz, but that's really about it. Minus D. Gordon, who's pretty much a glorified higher Gerard Dyson in center field. If you want to give a comparison.
Certainly has the speed, and I could certainly see the comparison there. So the Mariners, another team, much like the Angels last year, they were in the discussion for the second wild card spot for the majority of the regular season before sort of tailing off the last couple of weeks. They'll be a team to watch, certainly a team that can contend for a wild card spot, as will the Texas Rangers, potentially. They, as will the Angels, are expected to start the season with a 6-man rotation, which Cole Hamels didn't have kind words for. And I don't think the Rangers' rotation at the moment is as talented potential-wise with what the Angels have going. Of course, you have Cole Hamels as the ace of the staff. Then you have Doug Fister, who spent half the season with the Red Sox last season. Mike Minor was brought in the offseason, as was Matt Moore after a tumultuous 2017 campaign with the San Francisco Giants. Look, I mean, they play in a bandbox there at Globe Life Park. They're going to score runs. Delino DeShields in center field. He's fun to watch. He can run around the base paths. Mazzara and Sin-Soo Choo in the outfield as well. Joey Gallo can hit the ball about 500 feet if you make a mistake to him. Rougned Odor, Elvis Andrus, Adrian Beltre, and then Robinson Chirinos behind the plate. The bullpen, Tim Lincecum is in the running to potentially be the closer for the Texas Rangers. It sounds like it'll be closer by committee. A lot of question marks surrounding the bullpen for Texas. So it's going to have to be a season here for the Rangers, at least on paper, that they're going to have to win their fair share of 11 to 10 games.
I believe so, because they have a good lineup 1 through 9, but the pitching is, ooh boy, good luck. Just right. Being honest, man.
Let's head to the Bay Area. Take a look at the Oakland Athletics. A lot of people have actually tabbed Oakland as a sleeper team to potentially make a little bit of noise here.
If they don't go through a fire and brimstone in August.
Right, of course.
Which is almost every year for Oakland.
Brought in Jonathan Lucroy last minute. A lot of young pieces that are expected to do some big things. Of course, you have Chris Davis, one of the best power hitters, one of the most underrated hitters in all of Major League Baseball. Matt Olson, the starting first baseman, was very impressive down the stretch last season.
Yes.
And Matt Chapman is a superstar defensively already at third base for the A's. Marcus Semien and Jed Lowry up the middle. And then adding Steven Piscotty, certainly an upgrade for the A's out in right field over the offseason. The starting rotation, young pieces. Kendall Graveman is expected to be the number one. He'll get the opening nod on opening day against the Angels tomorrow. Sean Manaea, southpaw. A few question marks after that. And then the bullpen for the Oakland Athletics as well. There can certainly be some question marks surrounding that bullpen as well. So, I mean, if we're not going to give our 1 through 5 predictions in each division, that's a little ridiculous.
Right.
But if all goes well for the A's, they can finish, I think, towards the middle of the pack in the American League West. But if things start to falter, especially with that rotation, you can certainly see them in the cellar this season.
And the one thing you don't see on their rotation is Jarrell Cotton.
Yeah, he's going to miss the entire season with Tommy John
and
surgery.
That's a big loss for them.
Yeah, Cotton was that coveted piece, or at least supposed to be brought over.
Supposed to be their ace this year.
In that trade a couple of seasons ago that sent Josh Reddick and Rich Hill at the time to the Dodgers, but certainly hasn't panned out that way to this point. Let's move on to the American League Central. The Cleveland Indians had such a magnificent run. They had that American League record winning streak in 2017, up 2-0 on the Yankees, and boy, the baby Bombers came back and went on to the American League Championship Series. And a lot of people are dubbing the Indians, World Series or American League favorites coming into 2018. I can't say that I feel the same. Jay Bruce is gone. Carlos Santana is gone. And
yes.
Brian Shaw, big piece out of the back end of that bullpen, is gone as well. Now, the Indians did bring in Yonder Alonso. Michael Brantley is hurt again to start the year, so Tyler Naquin will fill the void in left field. You have Lonnie Chisenhall and Zimmer also in the outfield. Star-studded left side of the infield with Jose Ramirez and Francisco Lindor, and, of course, the rotation headed by the reigning Cy Young Award winner, Corey Kluber. Carlos Carrasco is as close to a number one, as well as Trevor Bauer as you can get behind Corey Kluber. Josh Tomlin, Mike Clevenger, they should do a nice job in the 4 and 5 slots for Terry Francona. Jason Kipnis, you figure with a full season, him healthy, that left-handed bat in the middle or towards the top of that order should be pretty daunting for opposing pitching. And then Edwin Encarnacion also close to 40 homers, top 5 in the American League in extra base hits last season. What do you expect from this Cleveland Indians team? Do you expect the losses of Jay Bruce and Carlos Santana to hurt this team?
I think it will. Because, again, you don't have Ballant beginning the year in left field, who is talented-wise one of the best in the league in the outfield.
But he's always hurt.
It's like the T-Mac problem of baseball. He's great, good bat, good defense, but cannot stay healthy. And number 2, first base. You lose Santana, go to Philly for a nice contract for him, by the way.
3 years, $60 million.
Woo! Jealous, by the way, as well. And you bring Alonso, who had a nice year last year, his best home run year, his career 20 home runs with the A's and Mariners. But, again, he's had problems in the past of having a good hot streak to keep it going. So if he is true to his form from last year's stats, it might be a good fit for him at first base. But a lot of pressure on his last name to be at least solid at first base for Cleveland.
Even without Shaw, though, the back end of the bullpen, Andrew
still
Miller,
solid.
Allen, the closer for Cleveland, should be the favorite to win the Central. And once we're done with our predictions, because we have different picks here to win the American League Central. So once we're done breaking down the teams in the Central, we'll give you our division champions.
But I will say this about the Cleveland rotation. Their key, if they want to repeat to win the AL Central, will have to be Carlos Carrasco. He missed a good portion of May and June last year, and they somewhat fell apart. When he came back, that's when the streak came about. So when Carrasco was on, the Indians go, Tribe, go.
And this is the last year they'll have Chief Wahoo on the cap. So could be a
better
year,
embrace the Chief before he's gone.
A year to remember for the Cleveland Indians. Let's move on. The Minnesota Twins were perhaps the biggest turnaround, actually, considering They were the first ever team to go from a 100-loss season to making the postseason. That was the first time that ever happened in Major League Baseball history. One of the biggest turnarounds that baseball has ever seen. And they made some late off-season but very key additions, especially to the rotations. Now, Irvin Santana is going to miss the first part of the season. He's out with a finger injury. He was supposed to be their ace coming into the season, but how good was Barrios last season in his rookie campaign?
Phenomenal.
For the Twins, followed by a couple of guys that were brought in right before the start of spring training. Jake Odorizzi was acquired from the Tampa Bay Rays. He is an innings eater. He has always done well in the American League East. You figure that'll transfer over well to the AL Central. And then Lance Lynn, another innings eater, another veteran that has always been so solid for a number of years with the Cardinals. He got a one-year, around $12 million deal towards the beginning of spring training. So I really feel strongly about this starting rotation that Minnesota has. And, of course, all the young bats as well. Miguel Sano down at third base. He can hit the ball just about as far as anybody in Major League Baseball. Eddie Rosario had a nice 2017 campaign. Byron Buxton, took him a while. For a number of years he was rated as the number one prospect in all of Major League Baseball. Finally had a breakout campaign, helped that team get into that second wild card slot last year. Brian Dozier, one of the best power-hitting second basemen in the game. Castro's a solid piece behind the plate, especially defensively. Joe Mauer, not the same Joe Mauer we were accustomed to when he was winning the MVP and starting all-star games a number of years back, but he can still provide you with some production towards the top of the lineup. And another late addition to the team was Logan Morrison. Lomo can certainly hit for power. He'll split.
He can mow some mo too.
He can certainly split the first base DH duties with Joe Mauer, and that's another power bat from the left-hand side that has to be attractive to Paul Molitor, the reigning American League Manager of the Year.
How good was he as a player, Paul Molitor? He was pretty good, right?
He was great.
He was very well as a hitter, solid. His lineup is very solid. Again, not flashy, but everyone's good in the infield and the outfield. Mauer to Sano, they can all be effective in the lineup, and in the outfield, it's good defensively. But Buxton and Rosario in left and center field, they can cover up space and also be a threat on the bases as well.
Yeah.
And I do like their bullpen. Not flashy. Aston Reed from the White Sox is in there. He's had his issues every now and again. You have Phil Hughes, who's missing part of an oblique problem, but he can eat innings for you. The one concern I may have, the closer, Fernando Rodney.
Mr. Crooked Hat.
Man, he can
shoot the arrow.
He's either good
I know.
or he's really bad.
And that's the big risk you run when you leave Fernando Rodney in charge of your ninth inning. Hey, tip your cap. I mean, he has had longevity in this league,
yes.
and he still has a ridiculous changeup. He still has a fastball that he can get by hitters. What Fernando Rodney are we going to get? And you just look at the tendencies. A good season last year with the Diamondbacks. Does that mean he's going to have a bad 2018 here with the Twins? Or maybe the league change from NL to AL will negate the inconsistency for Rodney?
I think the league change may help him in his favor because he has a good fastball when he's on. When he's off, the fastball looks like a changeup. However, he was with the Rays one time ago, 50 save year in the Rays a couple years ago. If he is back to that old form, he can be effective in target field. Now, on the road in New York, good luck. But he can't be effective at home for the Twins this year.
And we really expect this AL Central division in 2018 to be top-heavy with those two teams. The Royals lost a good chunk of what was from that World Series championship team back in 2015, most notably saying goodbye to Eric Hosmer and Lorenzo Cain in free agency. They did bring back Mike Moustakas, who surprisingly was left on the market until about halfway through March. Then Mike just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to come back here on a one-year deal. I'm going to bet on myself and double down. A lot of home runs last season. A lot of people thought it was a fluke walk contract year. A lot of people didn't want to give Moustakas the big deal that he was looking for. So you figure if he can repeat the numbers that he had at the plate in 2017, that he will be headed for a bigger deal in a bigger market come the winter at the end of this season. But as you take a look at the Royals, you don't expect them to contend this season. I don't think they expect to contend this season. Salvador Perez, we just got news here about half an hour ago. He tore his MCL, so he's going to miss the first month and a half, 2 months of the season. So that's another piece from years past that isn't going to be with this Royals team. Lucas Duda over at first base, a notable addition to the team. Danny Duffy dealt with a DUI recently as well, so who knows what his status is. I believe he'll be available come opening day. I'm not exactly sure, but that rotation, Ian Kennedy as the number 2, Jason Hamill as the number 3. I mean, shoot, 3-4 years ago, that's a good 1 through 3. I'm just not sure what those guys are going to bring to the rotation for Casey. And then Herrera's a solid closer in the back end of the bullpen, but outside of that, a lot of question marks. Alex Gordon's still out in left field. They brought in John Jay to man center field. I can't see the Royals winning more than 75 games.
I agree, but don't sleep on our second baseman, Whit Merrifield. He's a nice, solid piece. He can hit for power. And also has nice on the base as well. So he might be a nice piece going forward next 3-4 years at second base with Merrifield.
Yeah, let's take a look. Motown.
Detroit.
The Detroit Tigers. This has certainly been reminiscent to that of what the Phillies went through 3-4 years ago. You go through a number of seasons owning the American League Central, much as the Phillies did with the National League East when they had Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, just to name a few. The Tigers, boy, how the mighty have fallen, and it wasn't planned this way, but guys just started to fall off of the peak of their careers.
Just got older.
Guys, and then the rotation started to fall apart. Wasn't what it was in seasons past. Of course, sending away Justin Verlander at last year's August waiver trade deadline was a pretty good indication that this team was headed for the rebuilding phase. But the names are still attractive as you take a look at the roster. Castellanos is a nice piece. He'll play third. He'll play right field. Miggy Cabrera, not what he once was, but still a tough bat in the middle of the order. Victor Martinez, I can't believe he's still playing.
Yep.
Outside of that, though, a lot of question marks. Mikey Matuk's a name to watch out for in left field for the Detroit Tigers. But outside of that, boy, Jordan Zimmerman comes into the season as the number 1 on this staff. Michael Fulmer's a good young piece at number 2. He'll be swirling around come trade deadline, I'd imagine. I don't expect much from Detroit this season, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Miguel Cabrera shipped off somewhere at some point this season.
That's a big contract, though.
Exactly.
If you want to pay that much for an older Miguel Cabrera, who can still hit, but not what he once was 4 or 5 years ago.
You figure maybe you'll run into a situation where you can get somebody to take on a bad contract for an old guy, which you don't see often in Major League Baseball these days. White Sox may be headed for a number 1. I wish people could see the face he just made. James Shields is their ace heading into the season. Look, this is a team with a very bright future.
Yes.
Tim Anderson, Yohan Moncada up the middle might be the best middle infield you'll find in Major League Baseball 3-4 years from now. Jose Abreu with a lot of pop over there at first base. Avisail Garcia, who looks like a younger Miguel Cabrera.
Pretty much, just different last name and first name.
In right field. Joaquim Soria trying to continue to revive his career in the back end of the bullpen. And a lot of great pieces. The White Sox were actually rated as the second best minor league system in all of Major League Baseball to wrap up 2017 heading into 2018 right in front of the San Diego Padres. So the future is bright for this team. That's why Hawk Harrelson's going to be back for another 3-4 years. He believes in the future. Unfortunately, this is the present, and I wouldn't expect much at all out of the White Sox in 2018.
To directly quote the great Hawk Harrelson, stretch. Just stretch for wins next couple of years.
All right, now that we've finished our rundown of the AL Central, who do you like to win the division and why?
Me? Well,
because we differ on this. So
we do differ, but it's a unique pick. I'm a big fan of Minnesota. I'm going with the Twins this year, Chris.
Really? I can't go against that starting rotation that Cleveland has. Kluber, Carrasco, Bauer, 1, 2, 3. If those three guys can stay healthy as well as the back end of the bullpen, I think the offense is going to be hurt with the losses of Bruce and Santana, but they'll still score runs.
If I know it's hypothetical, but if you can guarantee me Brantley plays at least 95 games this year, which probably won't happen, but if he was, then I would say Cleveland, no question. But I am not sold on Cleveland without Bruce and Santana. That gives you at least good power threats in the middle of the order for Terry Francona. And you have Alonso coming in his first year, a lot of pressure on his shoulders, trying to be a nice replacement to Santana at first base. I like Kluber as a former Cy Young last year. Carrasco's good, but Carrasco has an injury bug every now and again to get hurt and miss up maybe a month or two in the middle of the summer. If he's healthy, they win. But I like the Twins because they're solid all over. They're good in the bullpen, good in rotation, and they're good in the field, making plays defensively and also getting some runs as well.
Let's move to the American League East. The Boston Red Sox won the division last season, knocked out in the opening round the division series by the Houston Astros. And as you take a look at the depth chart for the Red Sox, certainly expectations to get back to the postseason with Chris Sale, David Price, Rick Porcello, 1, 2, 3 in the rotation. But I take a look at the overall brush scope, if you will, of what the Red Sox are bringing to the forefront on their roster in 2018, and I can't say I'm all that impressed. This, to me, is another one of those Red Sox teams that could easily win 95 games and the division, or they could win 78 games, finish under 500, and miss out on the postseason. A lot of great young pieces. Benintendi showed us a lot in the outfield last season. Jackie Bradley Jr., Mookie Betts, they can go after it in the outfield. No question about that. I love the future of Rafael Devers over at third base. He was fun to watch down the stretch in 2017. He's certainly electric at the plate and very good defensively as well. They did bring back Eduardo Nunez, so that's another piece that I think will help the Red Sox out both at the plate and defensively. On the infield, Xander Bogaerts is a good shortstop, one of the better ones in the American League. Dustin Pedroia is going to start the year on the DL, and obviously Pedroia still putting up good numbers at the top of the Boston Red Sox batting order, but we'll see how he comes off of knee surgery he had at the end of October. Never know what you're going to get from Hanley Ramirez over at first base. He'll split time with Mitch Moreland. The biggest addition for the Red Sox was finally inking J.D. Martinez. They were linked to him from day one of the offseason. Took him a while to finally come to an agreement on a deal, but he's a big bat that you figure will benefit with the hitters' ballparks in the American League East. We mentioned the rotation with Sale, Price, and Porcello, 1, 2, 3, going to be amongst some of the best in the American League. Bullpen, Craig Kimbrell, one of the best closers in all of Major League Baseball, but losing Addison Reed certainly hurts you. I don't know how great I feel outside of maybe Joe Kelly, which you never know what you're going to get from him. That's a big question mark, and I think it's going to be a big Achilles heel for the Red Sox, unless, of course, they can make an addition or two throughout the season. That bullpen for Boston, and outside of those three at the top of the rotation, there are certainly some question marks surrounding Boston.
Well, you do have one concern as well, is David Price. Is he all the way there? Is he sold to being a Red Sox for this year and for the long haul? Because he had a rough last year. He didn't feel part of the team. He felt an outsider. He was called by Dennis Eckersley in the middle of the year for not being a true teammate, a true guy. So if Price is fully invested in the white and the red, they should be contenders. If he's not, they might be third, fourth, fifth in AL East. However, one point I do want to mention about is that right side of the infield. Can Pedroia and either Ramirez or Moreland be solid throughout the summer? They have been spotty at times over the years. Pedroia's getting older now. He's near his mid-30s around these days. Ramirez always a crapsheet at first base. Both sides of the plate on offense and defense. Moreland's not bad, but he's not that great. He's just solid. Just a regular guy. And also the big money man, J.D. Martinez, former player under Dave Dombrowski in Detroit. So how will he be effective with that big deal at a DH spot?
Yeah.
Replacing Big Papi, essentially.
How many times have we seen players come over to the AL East, most notably the Red Sox, in big deals and get off to slow starts? It has happened
Adrian
a lot.
Gonzalez, Carl Crawford.
Yeah.
You want more?
I think you could throw Hanley in that category.
Hanley, too.
So, I think another
You,
kid,
too, maybe, if you're in Boston, Chris.
boy, that big wall, it's so close yet so high. It's tempting, and I'm sure it could cause you to press a little bit as a hitter. Yeah, I think the biggest key for this team, as you mentioned, limiting the drama.
Yeah.
We don't need none of that.
Well, no chicken and beer, thankfully, this year for them.
There's always some sort of in the clubhouse or off the field controversy that hampers the Red Sox, but I would expect them to contend. You and I we'll give our NL East predictions once we get there. We'll move now to the Bronx.
Yes.
Can we could spend an hour talking about the Yankees?
Well, more so me, really.
Yeah, you're a Bronx guy.
I'm a true Bronx guy. Sorry.
So the Yankees, if you haven't heard, brought in this slugger
It's
by
pretty
the name
decent,
of, they used to call him Michael Stanton. It's now Giancarlo Stanton. He just hit 59 homers last year.
Just 59.
It's 59, and now he's moving to an even more hitter-friendly ballpark. Oh, and he's hitting with this guy named Aaron Judge, who had a few home runs last
52?
year. Yeah, and Gary Sanchez, who had
30?
Yeah, a couple. So, it's going to be a decent lineup. I mean, look, the Yankees, you want to talk about a team that's stacked. This is, and I think you can agree with me on this, this is their best roster since they won the World Series in 2009.
Oh, by far.
And I think...
And they're younger than 09.
Exactly. I was not in agreement with letting go of Joe Girardi. I thought the Yankees exceeded expectations last year by getting one game from the World Series, getting to Game 7 of the ALCS.
At this point last year in 2017, Chris, the Yankees looked to be at best third in the AL East. Third.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They weren't, and it just happened. Bad contracts. A-Rod retired. Teixeira walked out. Well, he retired because of injuries. Sabathia was near 37 last year. Had a lot of concerns. Aaron Judge was not Aaron Judge of last year. He was a farm guy that was not going so well. A lot of questions last year. However, how a year can change all of that. Judge had a great rookie year last year. You had a great play from Gregorius replacing Jeter at shortstop. Gardner, once again, solid in left field. Aaron Hicks actually played Aaron Hicks level in center field last year, replacing Ellsbury, who's been hurt for the last 2 years. You had some concerns pitching-wise with Sonny Gray in the postseason, but that should be fixed, hopefully, this year in 2018. But everybody made contributions, and that was, in fact, because of their manager last year, Joe Girardi.
Yeah, and, I mean, certainly, I think what sort of offset the displeasure and controversy surrounding bringing in Aaron Boone, a guy that has never managed at any level, for Joe Girardi, who has won a World Series championship
in New York,
who has won Manager of the Year multiple times as a manager at the major league level. With the addition of Stanton, I think that kind of made everybody forget, oh, who cares who our manager is? You and I could go manage this team, and they're still probably going to win 90-plus games. Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, the starting rotation, a few question marks. You love what you saw from Luis Severino, finished top 3 in Cy Young voting in 2017. Tanaka was lights out in the postseason. Bringing back CeCe on a one-year deal, I think he's
a lesser contract as well.
Motivated to win just as much as anybody in that Yankee clubhouse. And then Sonny Gray, I mean, a couple of years ago he was
phenomenal.
1-2 in that Oakland staff on Oakland team that was competing and went to a wild card back in 2014. And then you slot Jordan Montgomery, the southpaw, in the 5 slot. I'm not as concerned about the rotation as some are. If that 5 can stay healthy for the most part this year, I like the results that they're going to give you. And you got to love the bullpen. Aroldis Chapman at the back, Dylan Betances, Robertson, Tommy Canley came over last year from the Chicago White Sox. He throws about 100 70,000 miles per hour just as well as everybody else in that bullpen does. Warren does a nice job, as does Green back there. Shreve, the southpaw. Holder's going to do a nice job, I believe, in that bullpen. And, of course, a lot of depth with this team as well. Greg Bird goes out for a couple of months. That's why you brought Neil Walker in. He's going to man first base. You're going to have a platoon of Wade and Drury at second base. Gregorius, it looks like he's going to continue his power output that he had last season. And then Gardner, Hicks, Judge. You can also throw Stanton, Ellsbury when he's healthy, back in the mix in the outfield as well. I really like this team's potential.
2 points of concern for the Bronx Bombers. One, Don Betances. Betances' regular season was unhittable. Postseason, not so much. If he's effective like he was in the regular year, he'll be just fine in rotation in the bullpen. First base, I have concerns with Greg Bird out again with ankle spurs in his right foot. If he's healthy, the lineup is the scariest one by far in the league because you have Stanton, you have Judge that might hit leadoff this year, might be scary at that. See him first pitch of the game, somebody 6'8", 280 coming right at you. And then you have Sanchez. The lineup is loaded, but can they keep it together when they're going through a tough slump? If they have a tough slump, it could be ugly.
I agree with you. There's always
because they're
so
all
much...
big strikeout swingers.
Well, and here's the thing, and that if the Yankees start slow out of the gate, you're going to start
hearing
seeing
whispers.
Sports Centers from the top of the hour to the bottom of the hour. Oh, you shouldn't have brought in Aaron Boone. He doesn't have any experience. Girardi or Stanton. If Stanton gets hurt, goes on the 15-day disabled list. He has been injury prone the past few seasons outside of last year. So there are potentials, as with any Major League Baseball team, where if a couple things go wrong, things could potentially fall apart, and everybody's going to be so focused on the first month of the season. If Stanton and Judge aren't going back to back every other night, you're going to have the haters out, and you're going to have them yapping from time to time. But I think this Yankees team, over the duration of the season, I think roster-wise, bullpen, starting rotation, defensively, and the batting order 1 through 9 in prime position to win the division and do some special things come the postseason.
I agree.
Let's move north of the border. Toronto. Rogers Center.
Yes.
Wasn't that awesome last night? Vlad Jr., walk-off, Montreal.
Looked just like his dad, too, at the right side of the
Olympic Stadium. There's been talks of baseball getting back to Montreal.
They should.
I like the idea of it.
Good market out there in Montreal.
It's a good market. It's a good. I wouldn't advise bringing back the Expos organization, like the team name, the Expos. Maybe start something from the ground up.
Why not? I don't mind it.
Just kill the Expos. It's like bringing back the Supersonics. I mean, I'm not against bringing back old teams. It's just like
or the Montreal Senators.
There's a reason the Expos left Montreal to begin with. Things started to die down. Had some nice players there.
Yeah.
Beltre, Vladdy.
Delgado 1 year.
Yeah, that was a...
Javier Vasquez when he was in his prime.
So, I don't know. We'll leave it up to the higher powers.
Different show.
Yeah. All right, take a look at the Blue Jays. A lot of people like the Blue Jays as the quote-unquote Cinderella. They play in a bandbox at Rogers Center. Curtis Granderson, back in the American League East, could go for 30 homers, could hit 195. You don't know what you're going to get from Granderson.
He might have 195 or 40 home runs, too.
Kevin Pillar out in center. Good defensive center fielder. Always seems to make a highlight reel play or two every month. Randall Grichuk, a lot of people like the addition of him coming over from St. Louis. He's expected to start in right field. Josh Donaldson, it's a walk year for the bringer of rain. If the Blue Jays aren't in it come late July, he could be moved at the trade deadline. Feel for Troy Tulowitzki. He's always hurt as well.
I feel way bad for him. He's a good player when healthy, but if he's not, then down goes the Blue Jays.
They added Yangervis Solarte. Nice piece. You figure he'll hit for power and hit well. Switch hitter coming over from San Diego.
And he can play short and third as well.
Yeah, he's versatile. He can also play a little bit of first base as well. Justin Smoke put up a monster season in 2017, and then you'll get whatever you can, what's remaining out of Kendrys Morales at DH and Russell Martin behind the plate.
Good luck.
Rotation for Toronto may, if they can stay healthy, be one of their bright spots.
Mm-hmm.
J.A. Happ, Marco Estrada, Marcus Stroman. You brought in Jaime Garcia in the offseason. And boy, if you can get Aaron Sanchez, the 25-year-old right-hander, healthy for the duration of a season, I mean, this is a team that for the first time in a long time could have a better rotation than lineup.
Right. They could be. I like them 1 through 5 so much that if they're healthy, they could possibly be third just because of their pitching-wise. They can mess you up. You can be in Toronto in a bandbox, like you said, Chris, and be down 1-0 the entire game because their ace they have so much good stuff with Haps. This curveball is just gross. Sanchez is filthy. Estrada is nasty. Stroman, forget about his cutter. Good gracious. It's scary if they're healthy.
Yeah, it's a good 1 through 5 rotation, probably the best that John Gibbons has had at the helm of
probably his best ever.
The Blue Jays. You like Ozuna at the back of the pen, good young closer. You bring in O from the St. Louis Cardinals, who was up and down towards the back end of their bullpen, but he has experience. He's 35 years old. And John Axford as well. You never know what you're going to get from John Axford, an all-star in years past. He's sort of bounced around the league since he was a dominant closer with the Milwaukee Brewers at times. But this is a team that can certainly contend for a wild card spot. I don't think there's any question about that. I think they're in a very similar spot as are the Baltimore Orioles. Superstar third baseman, now shortstop, Manny Machado in a contract year. Of course, you have Adam Jones out in center field. Kobe Rasmus is in right field. He's a hot and cold type of guy. Mancini was very impressive in 2017. Chris Davis, we all know what type of potential he has at the plate. Jonathan Scope is an intriguing second baseman. And how about Beckham coming over midseason? That was a very underrated pickup from the Tampa Bay Rays last season. Mark Trumbo, a designated hitter. No question that this is a Baltimore team that can score runs with the best of them in Major League Baseball. A lot of additions to the rotation and a lot of money spent on this rotation in the offseason. Recently brought in Alex Cobb. Andrew Kashner was brought in. They re-signed Chris Tillman. You have Bundy at the top of the rotation and a couple of other arms that could factor in Gossman as well, who has a pretty good arm. His fastball tops out around 97 miles per hour. Again, the question comes with the bullpen. Zach Britton will start the season and miss the entire season, rather, with that ruptured Achilles, which, of course, hurts your chances in the back end of the bullpen, hurting leads. Closer by committee is what Buck Showalter is going to go with. One thing I will say, Buck Showalter is also in a walk year.
Yes.
He is also going to be a quote-unquote free agent at the end of the season. I think he's one of the best baseball minds that Major League Baseball has in today's day and age. I wouldn't bet against him. I just don't know if pitching-wise in the rotation and in the bullpen, this Orioles team in this division is going to do enough to be playing postseason baseball.
The only concern I have, and Buck said to us last week and via text, that he needs better pitching. He's gotten some, but not enough to win the division. It's decent, but it's not overpowering. Kashner is not bad. Tillman's decent. They're all decent. If they can have league-like years, having their best years in Baltimore, they can make some noise because they have a great offense with Chris Davis. You have Trumbo, Machado. They'll be fine on offense, but can they have enough pitching to win them games? They can't win every game 11-9. They have to have some 1-0 wins, especially at Camden Yards, not always going on the road to get a series win after getting swept at home by New York or Boston, whoever it may be. But they have to get wins in close ball games, not always in the offensive showdown, because offense sometimes can come and go.
Tampa Bay, to round out our preview of the American League East. It's just a team that it's
rebuilding.
Rebuilding. It reminds me a lot of the Oakland Athletics. I think there are a number of intriguing pieces. Heck, Denard Span, Kevin Kiermaier and Carlos Gomez left around to right in the outfield. That's not a bad outfield by any means. Duffy, Hechavarria, C.J. Cron, Miller on the infield. That's not bad by any means. Wilson Ramos healthy for a full season. And, of course, you have Chris Archer as your ace. Snell did a nice job in the 2 spot in the rotation last year. Colome in the back of the bullpen is a nice piece. They brought back Sergio Romo, hoping he can channel something of what was a phenomenal career before a couple of seasons ago. I don't expect much from this team, but I can tell you this. If you are an American League East contender fighting for a wild card spot or fighting for the top of the division come the end of the season, this is going to be a pesky Rays team. I would call them annoying this year. I don't see them winning more than 75 games, but maybe that's a stretch. But they're not fun to play, and it's not fun to play at Tropicana Field.
Right, they're going to make you work for every win, and it's just hard to win there. I'm not sure if it's a field or it's just Tampa. I don't know, but it's always hard for any good team to come from Tampa Bay and say it was a good series.
Who we got in the AL East?
Well, New York. Come on, man.
Yeah, I got the Yankees as well. I think just too overpowering 1 through 9 in the batting order. I think the Red Sox have a chance.
They have a slight chance.
They have a chance, but I think
if no distractions,
a lot of things will have to go wrong for the Yankees to not win the American League East. Let's wrap up our American League preview. Who do you like in the 2 wild card slots?
Boston and Cleveland. I like Boston's power, hitting-wise with Martinez and all of them, but Cleveland is just so good 1 through 5 in the rotation. But if they're healthy, they'll be fine. If not, good luck.
I also like Boston in one of the wild card slots. I think Alex Cora has a great future as a manager. I think that was a less questioned move than Aaron Boone.
He's been a bench coach a couple of years recently.
And I also like Minnesota. And it's hard for me to not put the Angels in the wild card. I just don't know about the health of that rotation. And I am dreading that bullpen this year with the Angels. I mean, look, if you add Greg Holland, I think I put the Angels in one of the wild card spots. But I like Minnesota. I think they're just built better from a starting rotation standpoint. Maybe not so much in the batting order. I think the Angels are going to have one of the better offenses in Major League Baseball, but that'll only get you so far in today's game and age. We're going to step aside here on the 2018 MLB preview and prediction show on Spreaker.com Zone National Sports. We're hanging out in our Motel 6 studios. We'll leave the light on for you. When we return, it's time for our National League preview and predictions. Yes, we will get into our World Series prediction and, of course, our bold prediction. We're going to give you one bold prediction from each league as we wrap things up, along with MVP, Cy Young, and Rookie of the Year predictions. Chris Sylvester with Jay Holloway breaking down what will be the 2018 Major League Baseball season. It all gets going tomorrow. Back in a moment on Spreaker.com, Zone National Sports.
When we listen to the radio, we never agree on the station.
Classic rock.
Hip-hop. Pop.
Guys, quiet. The one thing we do agree on, we all want an awesome free phone. That's why we switched to Metro PCS.
Stop by Metro PCS with the whole family and get 4 free phones of your choice from brands you love, like Samsung, Motorola, and LG when you switch. Metro PCS. Wireless figured out.
Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Free phone requires port. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Hi, Tom Bodette. Motel 6's new improved website lets you book a room and save more for what you travel for faster than ever. Even faster than you can find your keys, which you swore were right on the little hooky thing by the garage door where they always are, and we can land a robot on a comet, but we can't keep keys from disappearing. Oh, here they are. Left them in my jacket. Don't you hate that? I'm Tom Bodette for the new improved Motel6.com, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Oh, you haven't tried the KFC dunked wings? So you must be Sarah then. Sarah has no short-term memory. She was going to get some wings when she forgot her wallet at home. But then she forgot why she went home. Also, she didn't know where home was. And why is she in Istanbul when she lives in Kyalami? She doesn't know. But she does know that she will one day taste the dunked wings. She has an excuse. If you're not her, then you have no excuse. Get the KFC dunked wings for only $21.90. KFC, so good.
Welcome back. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 33 34 35 36 37 38 39 40 41 42 43 44 45 46 47 48 49 50 51 52 53 54 55 56 57 58 59 60 61 62 63 64 65 66 67 68 69 70 71 72 73 74 75 76 77 78 79 80 81 82 83 84 85 86 87 88 89 90 91 92 93 94 95 96 97 98 99 100 101 102 103 104 105 106 107 108 109 110 111 112 113 114 115 116 117 118 119 120 121 122 123 124 125 126 127 128 129 130 131 132 133 134 135 136 137 138 139 140 141 142 143 144 145 146 147 148 149 150 151 152 153 154 155 156 1
It's the 2018 Major League Baseball preview and prediction show here on Spreaker.com, the national sports radio station, with Jay Holloway. My name's Chris Sylvester. Get at us on the social medias. I'm on Twitter at Chris Sylvester _. He's Jay Holloway at BLAQ Vince Scully.
Don't wear it out, Chris.
Are you BLAQ Vince Scully on Instagram as well?
Yes, sir.
I don't know what I am. I think I'm C Sylvester PBP as in play-by-play.
I believe so.
On Instagram. I don't know.
He follows back, too, by the way. So give him a follow.
Do I?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
You follow me.
Oh. Maybe that's because I know you.
Oh.
I mean, okay.
Be nice.
Well, we gave you our American League predictions.
Yes.
It's going to be a fun year. I mean, there's no question about that. And I said this at the top of the show. I think it was going to be a highly anticipated season with what happened in the offseason, all the big names going elsewhere, all the question marks surrounding certain teams coming into 2018. But that 7-game World Series between the Dodgers and Astros, I feel like casual baseball fans became diehard baseball fans during that series.
Oh, yeah.
I can't recall. I mean, granted, we've had some great World Series in the past. We had that Texas-St. Louis World Series where the Cardinals were twice down to their final strike. David Freese hit the 2-run triple off the wall, and then Carlos Beltran delivered with a big hit in extra innings a few years back, but more than a few years back. Time flies. But, I mean, last year, I still go back and watch highlights. Like, that Game 5 was arguably the best World Series game from start to finish in history. Because you had Clayton Kershaw, the best pitcher in the game right now, on the mound with a 4-1 lead. Then it was 4-4. Then Cody Bellinger gave him a 7-4 lead.
Couldn't hold it.
Man.
And that's the best pitcher in the game.
The ball was just jumping off the bat.
That's like giving Peyton Manning a 14th lead in the fourth quarter. Crazy.
Doesn't happen unless it's a 2017 World Series. All right.
Oh.
We'll start in the West with the Dodgers, who look a little different than they did last time we saw them. Yu Darvish has departed for the South Side of Chicago.
Mutual terms, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. I know he struggled in the World Series, but I think
that big contract, man.
Yeah, Dodgers didn't want to.
They're already paying a big luxury tax every year with this lineup already. And you add Darvish as well, that's going to be breaking the bank for Stan Kasten and company.
Well, Matt Kemp is back.
Welcome back, Matt.
And this was not exactly planned. It was more of a salary dump. Adrian Gonzalez, Brandon McCarthy, and a couple other guys going over to Atlanta. The original plan was to flip Kemp elsewhere, but the Dodgers couldn't find any takers that would make sense. And Kemp had a really good spring. I think he's going to fit nicely in the middle of the batting order. I think for Dodger fans, it's cool to see a guy that was their superstar for a number of years back in town. He's expected to be their starting left fielder. They will start the season without Justin Turner, who broke his wrist. He's expected to miss up to 2 months. With the wrist injury, was hit by a pitch in spring training, but it's still a really, really solid and talented lineup. Chris Taylor was phenomenal last year. Yasiel Puig had a bounce-back season. Cody Bellinger was the Rookie of the Year. I think a nice platoon between second and third with Turner out, Kike Hernandez, Logan Forsythe, Chase Utley, they can hold it down. I love what Corey Seager brings at shortstop, and then you have Barnes and Grandal, a great defensive catcher that can hit, and then you have Grandal, not as great defensively, but he can hit for power behind the plate as well. The recurring issue I have with the Dodgers, and yeah, there are certainly some question marks surrounding their rotation outside of Kershaw. Is Alex Wood going to do what he did again in the first half last season? Probably not. Kenta Maeda flip-flop between the rotation and the bullpen last year. What's Rich Hill going to give you in his late 30s? Hungjing Ryu, who knows what you're going to get from him? It's been a while since he's been healthy from start to finish in a season. You do have Walker Buehler, in the conversation. It looks like he's going to start the season in AAA, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him up at the major league level before long. Kenley Jansen, as good as it gets at the back of the bullpen, but boy, I mean, losing Tony Watson I think hurts. I like the addition of Scott Alexander coming over from the Kansas City Royals, a quality southpaw. I'm just shocked that after last season overworking Kenley Jansen, that the Dodgers didn't make a setup guy and a consistent setup guy the priority of the offseason. And it's been that way for 5-6 years. I don't think the Dodgers are going to get over the hump until they bring in that eighth-inning guy. And what I'm talking about when I say that eighth-inning guy, I'm talking about somebody that has experience, maybe not even as an eighth-inning guy, but maybe you bring in a closer and make him adjust to that eighth-inning role. Remember they were on the verge of getting Aroldis Chapman a few years back?
Yeah, they were.
That would have been the dream scenario. And then you had the off-the-field issues for Chapman. And it seems like the Dodgers haven't really explored getting a guy like Chapman, a guy that has the ability and the stuff of Chapman in that eighth-inning role. And I think that's, again, going to plague the Dodgers unless they can bring one in mid-season.
Can they bring over Greg Holland?
I had a nightmare about that. I'm not kidding you. I had a nightmare that I was watching TV. You know I'm an Angels fan.
Yes.
I was watching TV, and I saw that the Dodgers had inked Greg Holland to a 1-year, $4.9 million contract, and I just about lost it. It turned from a dream to a nightmare. I'm serious. I'm not. This isn't like a joke for the show.
Oh, sure.
This is.
I'm sorry to hear that, Chris, by the way.
I was like, horrible. Billy Epler, $4.9 million?
You had one job, dude.
Come on. Look. I think Greg Holland would be a phenomenal addition to the back end of the pen.
I do have one concern though with their bullpen. Pedro Baez, that's Dave Roberts' number one guy to go to in the middle of a game. He was great in April, May, and June. After the All-Star break, that minute per pitch was not working. He was left off the bullpen in the NLCS, the World Series.
Yeah.
Can he give you what you got from him the first 2 months of the year? If you can somehow slide him into that eighth-inning role if effective. If he's not, you may want to find someone on the outside to fit that role because their last best setup guy is now their closer, Kenley Jansen. So you have to find a guy to help save him innings for coming in instead of getting 5 or 6 out saves to getting 2 or 3, not always 5 to 6. He leads the MLB in closers with at least 5 or 6 out saves last year.
And, I mean, I don't know if you had a chance to see it, and I don't want to ever blow spring training numbers or statistics out of the water, but Kenley's fastball in spring training is topped out at 90 miles per hour. And granted, when you throw a cutter and a fastball that moves as much as Kenley. I mean, look, Mariano Rivera towards the tail end of his career was still dominant, throwing the same pitches that Kenley Jansen
at 91
does now, topping out at 91. You figure how big of a guy that Jansen is. He'll get back up to 92, 93 at the very least. But it was only 4 or 5 months ago that
he was at 97.
Dave Roberts was using this guy, overworking this guy in the postseason, and it didn't give the results that Kenley Jansen would normally give you. Now, certainly you have to go to great lengths to win World Series games.
Sure.
But I think not bringing in another guy with closing experience, another guy with consistent eighth-inning experience, is really going to burn the Dodgers this year because I don't know how much you're going to want to use Kenley Jansen throughout the duration of the regular season.
It was almost like the exact opposite of the Yankees last year. They had Andrew Miller, Betances, and Chapman. One had to go. They had too many guys before the closer. Dodgers don't have anybody right now.
I mean, you could have brought in an Addison Reed,
somebody,
a Fernando Rod. I mean, you really could have made some.
And you have a big payroll, so was one guy going to help hurt you in your
that's a
bottom line?
Head scratching move for me.
Just get one solid guy to get through the eighth inning for you.
I still think the Dodgers will make noise in the NL West. We'll give you our prediction once we wrap up the division. Let's move to the desert. They have the bullpen cart now. Did you see that?
Yes.
The Arizona Diamondbacks.
Explain to the fans the bullpen cart.
So the bullpen cart, it looks so funny. It's like a golf cart with a helmet on it, and instead of the reliever jogging out from the bullpen, he is chauffeured to foul territory, and then he makes a short little walk as he was just coming from the dugout. I mean,
it's cute.
It's cool. Yeah, I guess it's unique. Here's my thing against that. When I used to pitch in high school and I used to come out of the bullpen, the most epic part about being a reliever was hearing my walkout song while I slowly trot and then I get into a nice little jog as I walk. I hope it's like by choice. I know they have a sponsorship deal with who has the sponsorship rights to the cart, but I hope that like if Brad Boxberger, who was just named the closer yesterday, I hope if Brad Boxberger, blows his first 2 saves and then, coming out on the cart and he wants to start jogging out of the bullpen, then let him do that.
Right.
But
we'll see. It's something different.
Diamondbacks lost J.D. Martinez to free agency. They thought momentarily there towards the end of the negotiations that they would bring him back, but was asking for too much money. Still a solid team. Peralta in left, Pollock in center. Hopefully with him healthy for a full season, he can show everybody how good of a center fielder he is. He's really fun to watch. Brought in Gerard Dyson after spending last year with the Mariners. He's a good defensive right fielder. He can also run all over the base paths. Paul Goldschmidt, we'll talk about an underrated superstar. Doesn't get enough love. Ketel Marte at second. Shortstop's going to be
got a nice deal yesterday, too.
Yes, he did. Going to be a revolving door there. Lamb with a very nice season in 2017, going to man third base. And then the rotation, of course, Greinke, Robbie Ray, Tawan Walker, Patrick Corbin, Zach Godley. Really good, solid rotation 1 through 5. I think Greinke's the only guy in there that has the ace stuff, although Robbie Ray can certainly blow the fastball by you from the left side. And then the bullpen, Boxberger at the back, replacing Fernando Rodney. Archie Bradley was great out of the bullpen last year, but outside of those two guys, I mean, where else is the – and can't forget about Steven Souza Jr., who's going to start the season on the deal with a pectoral strain. But once he comes back, he's going to be a nice addition as well. My biggest issue with this team is the bullpen. They'll score runs. They'll get production from their rotation. But man, it could be a very rough season for the bullpen.
Yeah, well, I have 2 problems, the bullpen and the rotation.
You don't like the rotation?
I like it, but it's a lot of potential with rotation with Tawan Walker from the Mariners last year in that trade, and also Corbin. 2 years ago, Corbin Rookie of the Year, had a great 14-year win season. Tommy John last year, not as what he once was, but can you get what he was 2 years ago? If you can, they'll make some noise. If not, it might be a long year in the Valley of the Sun.
Let's get Mile High now.
Oh, man.
Scary hours.
Real scary.
I mean, the Rockies and Diamondbacks, they went head-to-head in the National League wild card game last year.
Probably one of the best playoff games last year by far.
Was that a good one? Honestly, I can't recall.
It was kind of good.
Was it good?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure you're not thinking, what was that? Rockies, Padres back in the day? Wild card, was that 08, 07?
That was 07.
07. Ian Desmond, Blackman, Cargo coming back.
Yes,
I
that's
like
a good signing
back.
last year.
You also have Gerardo Parra in the outfield. Ryan McMahon. Man, we got a story about Ryan McMahon.
Oh, we do.
He's projected to start over at first base potentially for the Rockies. He has torn it up in the minor leagues. He was a quarterback at Mater Dei High School in Santa Ana. And did you ever get him? Did you ever sack him?
I didn't get him.
You didn't get him.
I got him. I almost got him. I gave him a lick once, but never sack.
Never sack. But you gave him a good hit.
A good hit.
So if
the
you
great
ever
Rhoda.
if you're ever sitting behind the Rockies dugout at a game and you want your ball signed, he's gonna look at you and he's gonna.
he might. I'm like, what's up, Ryan? Where you at, dude?
He's solid, man.
He's real solid.
He's a
big
great
guy.
Baseball player. Wasn't as we don't have to criticize his football skills.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't D1.
It was a rebuilding phase for modern day.
That's how you say it now? Under Bruce Robinson.
Look, Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story, DJ LeMahieu, Iannetta, dudes can hit. In that ballpark, dudes can hit. The questions are gonna remain with the rotation. Now, how good was John Gray last year?
My goodness.
His stuff is so stuff is filthy.
It's just gross.
And
he's only 26.
He's
man.
26, man. You look at these numbers: 10-4 with the 3.67 at Coors.
That's at Coors Field.
Elsewhere, you're probably looking at an ERA under 3.
Maybe 2.5.
And he only threw 110 innings. If you can keep him healthy start to finish, he can be an ace.
Easily.
You have the other young pitchers behind him in the rotation. Tyler Anderson, the southpaw, will see what he can give you after posting a 4.81 earned run average. Marquez was up and down last year.
Yeah.
Only 23. Won 11 games.
Mm-hmm.
Bullpen, this is where they made their bread in the
Very
offseason.
good signing Wade Davis.
That bullpen's going to be solid. Could be the best bullpen in Major League Baseball.
I believe so.
Wade Davis.
At least top 2.
Wade Davis closing games. Brian Shaw, 8th or 7th. Jake McGee, 8th
He's probably
or
the 8th
7th.
guy. Shaw's probably the 8th guy, I think.
You throw Mike Dunn, another consistent southpaw in the mix in the back end of the bull. I mean, this is going to be a fun team to watch this year. This team has potential. My worries and questions surround that rotation and its health and consistency. If you can get 3 starters to win double-figure games and have earned run averages around 4, this is a team that's going back to the postseason.
You may see the Girardi rule in effect. So last year, as I'm a Yankee fan by heart, obviously so, the rule was the starter must go 5, the bullpen got the rest. If the Rockies had that same philosophy and mindset, they'll be a scary team in the NL West. If they can get through 5 innings at home and go to that good bullpen of Shaw and Dunn and Davis, they'll win at least 95 games this year.
Let's move down to Petco, San Diego.
Love San Diego.
Give me your Ted Leitner impression.
Oh, boys and home whites. At Petco. Padres.
It's so good.
Oh, I love my boy Teddy Leitner.
Padres made a big late splash signing Eric Hosmer. It was the biggest deal in franchise history.
Big contract. 8 years, $144 million.
I think he'll slot nicely with Will Myers in the
that
middle of the
can buy a lot of
batting order.
Hodad burgers down there in San Diego.
Oh, God, nice Hodads. Free plug. I'll give them so many free plugs. If they I'd give them 100 commercials if they give me 1 free burger.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
You were hooked, huh?
I'm hooked.
One time you're like, I got to get some more, man.
They haven't made the stadium, too.
Yep.
Hodad sounds great right now. There's none around the L.A. area?
Oh, no.
Nothing for us here?
Oh, in Ocean Beach in downtown San Diego on 10th Street.
Freddie Galvis, I think that's a good addition to the middle part of the infield. Locked up Brad Hand to an extension in the offseason. I just don't think this team is going to contend yet. I think they'll be significantly better than last season. I like the young pieces they have. In fact, this is the number 1 minor league system in all of Major League Baseball. Fernando Tatis Jr. I mean, we had a chance to get out to spring training and cover a couple Padres games. I mean, this is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the NL West at most 2.5, 3 years from now.
What's your best bet for them? 2 years away?
2 years away.
Okay.
I think we could see Tatis Jr.
Will you see him this year or next year, you think?
We could see him as a September call-up, but he's only 20 years old.
But he killed it last year at 19.
I know.
20 home runs?
I could be wrong. He might be 19. Well, he's 19 or 20.
He's young.
He's young, and he's good. He's really good.
Better than his dad.
They have a lot of underrated arms. With the rotation, they had Clayton Richards, their ace. Dinelson Lamet, he's a good piece, but he's got.
I would prefer Lamet as their ace than Richard is.
He's got more potential long term.
I would agree, but Perdomo's not bad either.
My word of advice to Padre fans: hold tight. Not much longer. We're almost there.
Yeah.
All right, let's go up to the Bay Area. Tough news last week.
Oh.
Madison Bumgarner, almost like the repeat of how 2017 began.
Mm-hmm.
And both have been freak injuries. But
before we continue, give us your best John Miller, please.
Fastball on the outside corner.
It's good. Very John-esque.
Hello, kitty.
All right, back to the Giants, man.
Adios, pelota. Okay. There he is. Johnny, can't wait to listen to him tomorrow. Look, I mean, the names, you can't dispute the names. Posey, Belt, McCutchen, Longoria, Crawford, Pence, Austin Jackson.
Big Panda.
Big Pandas on the team. Joe Panic. I think my outlook for this team is much different with Madison Bumgarner taking the mound tomorrow at Dodger Stadium. Ty Blach is the opening day starter for the Giants.
Yeah. That's tough.
Now, Johnny Cueto is healthy. He had a great
which is rare
first season, not so great last season. I think he still has potential to be a top of the rotation type piece. Samardzich's been hurt. He's been a bad contract. No other way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Melancon, his status is unknown heading into opening day. He dealt with health issues last year. We know he's a great closer when he's healthy. Dyson, Tony Watson was brought in the offseason.
Strickland's always a question mark with his stuff.
This is a team that could contend for a second wild card spot, or it's a team that could lose 90-plus games like they did last year.
Their problem, I think, will not be pitching. It'll be more so can they get runs aboard. They're one of an old-school like team. They like to have small ball, but in this day and age, you need the home run ball. You can't win games 2-1 in that Costco warehouse of AT&T Park.
425 to right
center?
Yeah,
jeez, that's a Death Valley back there.
I think before long, and I think it's the most beautiful ballpark that I've ever been to. I think before long, and I know it's cool, like the whole brick wall and right. I think they'll move in that right center field eventually. Don't you think?
How so?
I couldn't tell you.
Because it's kind of it's an odd way of looking at it at a landscape perspective.
It is. You just make it happen. I mean, or you do what the Angels did this season. That you heard instead of that big right field fence, they put the yellow line halfway up.
Oh,
yeah, you didn't hear about that?
Did I hear about it?
Yeah, there'll be a lot more home runs in Anaheim this year.
Oh yeah,
Giants. I don't know. It's tough when you have the injury to Mad Bum. I think that just again off the bat, it just puts a negative momentum.
And he too
on this
contract
team.
year as well. Looking for a new deal.
2 months, best case.
Maybe.
Fractured left hand.
That's tough.
Screws are going to be in it for a month. Then you get the screws out. Then you have to rehab and get back to it's tough.
Yeah, it's really tough.
Tough blow. But if you can get the production that Evan Longoria and Andrew McCutchen had given their respective teams in the past, could be a much better lineup than what they had in 2017.
It might be a good year for Longoria. He's a good hitter to left, so avoiding that long right field Costco aisle 19 where you find your pretzels and stuff. So hopefully
your Ghirardelli chocolates.
Oh, that too. The biggest one in San Francisco, by the way, for a nice place to get some chocolate. But if you can get at least a decent year from McCutchen after leaving Pittsburgh for over a decade there and did a fine job for the Pirates. Longoria, new year, maybe some new energy from him at third base, possibly, to get at least some offense.
He's back in his home state of California. Yeah. For the first time, for a couple of guys that at one point in their careers were contending with the Rays and the Pirates, were in the MVP conversation. Andrew McCutchen won an MVP. These were a couple guys that I'm sure at one point in their career thought, I'm going to be a Pirate for life. I'm going to be a Ray for life. And then, things with the organization, direction of the team change. And I think the potential is sky high for the two. I know they're not, quote unquote, in their prime anymore. I still think they can give you great production.
I agree.
All right. National League West. Who you got? We differ on this.
We do. I really like the Rockies. You add Davis, you add Shaw. I just and also if you have a healthy John Gray, come on, man, you can't beat that team.
You love John Gray.
Yeah, he's filthy. And yes, Kershaw is great to his own right, former Cy Young. I get it. Bellinger, solid. Seager, solid. But my question is left field. Matt Kemp or Jock Peterson? A guy hitting 245 or a guy hitting 193? Who do you want? I don't know. And also their bullpen. Their bullpen is shaky.
Well, I think despite the bullpen issues, I just think that this Dodgers team, they're hungry coming off of that Game 7 loss. I like them to win the NL West. I don't know about their future after the fact. I'm a big fan of Andrew Friedman and the rest of that front office and what they've done with this organization since taking over. I think they'll find a way, and I just think they have a winning pedigree right now with that roster. I think the Dodgers
but they got to spend money.
The National League West, and they might have to trade some farm pieces as well. I think Walker Buehler is going to come up at some point sooner rather than later and make some big contributions with the LA Dodgers. Let's move to the National League Central. Chicago Cubs. Their roster looks a little bit different than it did when they lost to the Dodgers in the NLCS last season, most notably bringing in Yu Darvish from the Dodgers. That's a solid rotation. John Lester, Kyle Hendricks, Yu Darvish, Jose Quintana. Also added Tyler Chatwood coming over from the Colorado Rockies in the offseason.
He's a big question mark. I'll keep that in mind because he has starter-like stuff, but his command at times in his career in Colorado has always been a problem. If let's just say he wins at least 10 games, that's a good thing for Chicago because he has a good fastball. It can move like a two-seam and a four-seam, but if he's not on his game, he has problems getting through starts. But I do like having Quintana there and Hendricks, the professor, with Darvish and your ace in Lester.
And I love the batting order for Joe Madden 1 through 9.
Oh.
If we can get the best we can out of Kyle Schwarber.
A new skinny Kyle Schwarber as well.
Skinny Schwarber.
Yes.
Ian Happ out in center for a full season. Boy, Jason Hayward, we just hope for his sake that he can get it together because that's looking like one of the worst contracts in Major League Baseball right now.
So much talent, but just can't hit. They have not been the same since Fowler left them to the rival St. Louis. When Fowler was there, he's a nice crush to Hayward.
Yeah. A nice compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan and Rizzo on the corners, Baez and Russell up the middle, and Wilson Contreras, who's a very intriguing catcher, especially with the bat in his hands. I love everything about this Cubs team. The question marks again, and maybe this is just the trend in Major League Baseball. Maybe it's like, okay, rotation first, let me worry about my order, and then, bullpen and afterthought. Do you trust Brandon Morrow based off of one good setup season with the Dodgers? Closing games for you in your pursuit to win a world championship? I wasn't too hot on the move.
I wasn't, but I see why he did that. Didn't want to overpay Wade Davis again after a rough year last year for the Cubs. I'm a big fan of Pedro Strop. He's their eighth inning guy. He can close games for him. His problem is command. He's a younger guy from the right side of the mound. He could be a closer down the road 2 years from now, but he's a young guy. If he can just keep it simple at the mound, they'll be fine. If not, it might be a long year.
I think Justin Wilson, who they acquired, lefty, who they acquired from the Tigers last year.
Steal.
I think he's the X factor in the pen. I think he could close games for them. He was
He
closing
could.
games for Detroit
He
last
was.
season before he came over to the Windy City. I think he may end up as the closer.
Prediction: do you think it'll be Strope Wilson closing
Wilson.
in August?
Wilson.
All right. I have Strope closing.
Big Wilson fan.
Got
You and I both agree on this, so we'll just spit it out now. We like the Cubbies coming out of the Central.
Yeah, that's no question.
But I think it's going to be an interesting division. I think the Brewers, as we head to Milwaukee and take a look at what they did in the offseason, huge fan of the additions of Yelich and Lorenzo Cain. It looks like Ryan Braun's going to be playing a lot of first base this year. Shaw was a solid pickup coming over from Boston last season.
Mm-hmm.
The rotation, some question marks surrounding the consistency. What are you going to get from a full season of Anderson, Davies, bringing in Julius Chassin in the offseason? Young, attractive arms in the bullpen. Jeffress, Nebel, Hader. But I think this is a Brewers team that'll make noise. I just feel like they're probably a year away from really making the noise that they want to.
That's fair to say. I believe so because they're all so young. You have Eric Thames, year 2 for him. He had a great first half last year, but second half he was very quiet at the plate at first base. A new year and maybe a new approach in the second half of the season for his home run swing again. Jimmy Nelson's not bad. Number 5 guy in the rotation for the Brewers.
Yeah, but he's recovering from that shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
I don't know the timetable for his return.
Might come like late July.
Is that
I've been told.
What Craig Counsell told you last week?
No, it was told by their broadcaster, Brian Anderson, and Matt LePay.
Ah, okay.
DMs, Chris, come on now. I'm on this, man. I'm pumped, dude. Where you at, man? Get in the game.
All right, let's go to
Got the inside scoop like Jim Gray, bro.
To St. Louis we go. Marcell Ozuna was the big acquisition of the offseason for the Cardinals. Cardinals in it towards the finish line last season. Never really got it together. I do like their rotation with Martinez, Waka, Luke Weaver, and Jack Flaherty, who we had a chance to see down at Petco Park last season. Carpenter is solid as it gets, consistency-wise at first base. Boy, Paul DeYoung, in just over 100 games last year, 25 bombs, one of the better up-and-coming, underrated players in today's game. Colton Wong, we'll see what he can give you. Tommy Pham was great out in center field. Dexter Fowler hoping to bounce back after an up-and-down first campaign with the Cardinals, and I think the biggest issue for them remains bullpen.
Yep.
Who's your closer going to be?
I don't know.
I mean, closer by committee to start the season, Tyler Lyons had a nice 2017, finished 4-1 with the 2.83 ERA, but you're putting the ninth inning in the hands of somebody with 3 career saves. I'm just not a big fan of not putting somebody experienced in the back of the bullpen.
And they let their guys walk,
contend.
too. Sapchisky walked. They let their guys leave. And also, I lost Lance Lynn last year, who had a great year last year. They didn't want to pay him.
I think it's going to be a team that's going to score a lot of runs.
Yes.
I think the rotation is going to provide production.
But can they get outs in the later part of the inning of the
That's
game?
going to be the big question. Bringing in a Bud Norris, perhaps he can channel some of what he did the first half of the season with the Angels last year. Yeah, he served as their closer, close to 20 saves last season for Buddy Norris. So if they can get some consistency out of the bullpen, certainly a contender.
I agree.
Let's move along here in the National League Central, and we'll head to the Steel City.
All right.
Pirates, going to be a rebuilding year for Pittsburgh, of course, letting Andrew McCutchen go in the offseason. Still some nice pieces to work with. They brought in Corey Dickerson, who was an all-star last year.
Mm-hmm.
Starling Marte is fun to watch in center. Gregory Polanco in right. Bell, the first baseman. Young kid, a lot of power. I think Harrison's going to get moved at some point.
I think so. If they're a seller, they're probably going to let him go.
Jordy Mercer at short, but boy, I mean, lots of trouble with the rotation. Ivan Nova is expected to be the team's number 1 starter coming into the season. Outside of Nova, not a whole lot of experience starting games 1 through 5 in the rotation. They did bring in Musgrove from the Houston Astros, acquired in that deal that sent Garrett Cole to Houston. Jameson Talion was a nice piece for the most part last season for the Pirates before he sort of limped to the finish line. So you could see some potential there. Love Felipe Rivero in the back end of the bullpen. He is an electrifying arm, just 26 years old. They locked him up to an extension this past offseason. I also have Contos towards the back of the pen that has some late-game experience, but more likely than not, this is going to be a rebuilding year for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, just a young team with a lot of older pieces. The catcher, former Yankee, Francisco Cervelli.
You like Francisco Cervelli?
Yeah, he's a very good team player. Not a great hitter, but a good team guy.
Let's round things out with the Cincinnati Reds. Been a while since they've been relevant.
Big red machine, huh?
Joey Votto got close to winning the MVP. Had a great 2017, but he can't do it by himself. Eugenio Suarez over at third base, an underrated hot corner player in today's game. Adam Duvall is a quality left fielder. Billy Hamilton can steal about 1,000 bases in a season if you let him. But again, the pitching is.
Can you steal first base in baseball? Because he probably could if he wanted to.
Probably steal like 2 bags at once if you get caught slipping. I mean, that's how fast he is. But I mean, with the rotation that Cincinnati's bringing to 20, come on.
I mean, you overpaid Homer Bailey to be your ace. After one good year with Dusty Baker, that was almost a decade ago.
I will say this. It is a team with a strong back end of the bullpen. I love Iglesias, just 28 years of age, closing games. He's an electrifying arm. Michael Lorenzen's a nice piece as well. He's only 26, and you can't forget about the potential that Brandon Finnegan still has ahead of him. He's only 24. He came over in a trade from the Kansas City Royals that sent Johnny Cueto at the time to KC when they made a run at the World Series in 2015. So I think this is a Reds team with a future, but not much of a present.
And the one thing that I've heard on one of their broadcasts, their captain, Joey Votto, said he wants the young guys to take control of the team because it's their team. Votto's getting older now, and he's getting in his downside of his career, and he wants to see the young guys like Hamilton and Iglesias to take this team to make it a contender because they've been losing the last 4 or 5 years due to Father Time and losing Brandon Phillips over the years, stuff like that, and trying to be what they once was. But it comes from their young guys being leaders as the years and games go by.
Let's move to the National League East. The Washington Nationals made a very questionable decision in
super questionable
firing Dusty Baker in the offseason. I want to get your thoughts on that before we dive into what to expect from this team. And you feel for a guy like Dusty who has been a part of so many teams that have gotten so close to a World Series championship but just never gotten over the hump.
I wasn't a fan of the firing, but I understand the team's reason why they did that. They're trying to keep their best asset, Bryce Harper. Contract year for Bryce. He might leave. He might stay. Yeah. Should he stay? They've had great teams. You could say by far they have the best overall team in National League. But can they put it together in October?
Yeah, and I've felt that way about the Nationals now for a couple of seasons.
At least last 3 years.
Yeah, it's just like a great rotation, a great bullpen, a great batting order 1 through 9, and just can't figure it out come the postseason.
Right.
Might this be the year?
If it is, you keep Harper.
Dave Martinez taking over. He was the former bench coach under Joe Madden with the Rays and Chicago Cubs. And, I mean, this is such a solid team. Again, I think it's just a matter of if you're a Nationals fan, you're just like, really? I got to sit through 162 regular season games again? Just get me back to the postseason.
Right.
I mean, that's the type of feel around this Nationals team. I love the bullpen. I haven't said this about a team we've gone over. You have Joaquin Benoit on the shelf. You also have the young right-hander that was closing games, Coda Glover, who was closing games for the Nationals to start 2017. Even with those two sidelined, Doolittle, Madsen, and Kinsler, 3 very respectable names, 3 guys that have proven results at the major league level time and time again. It's a strong bullpen. It's an even better rotation with Scherzer, Strasburg, Gio Gonzalez, Tanner Roark, and you throw the young Cole in the mix as well as the number 5 starter for this team. Eaton, Michael Taylor, and Bryce Harper, a very athletic outfield that can all hit as well. Anthony Rendon, Trey Turner at shortstop. They brought back Howie Kendrick, going to be in a utility role. He'll start at second base on opening day because of the injury to Daniel Murphy. And, of course, Ryan Zimmerman can still give you some production over at first base. Matt Wieters behind the plate. I think they are the most complete team in Major League Baseball. If they can stay healthy, it's just a matter of getting over that hump in the postseason.
Right. It's just, can they get through an NLDS without having an injury or not being up 3-1 against the Giants a couple years ago and lose to the Reds in 2015. They just have to find a way to get to the NLCS by hook or by crook. They have to get there.
Let's take a look at the Big Apple. The Mets made some key additions in the offseason.
Oh, they're in Quaid.
Jay Bruce, bringing in Todd Frazier, bringing in Adrian Gonzalez. We'll see what that can bring to the Mets in 2018. I know Agon, not the same Agon that he was back when he was mashing 40-plus homers for the San Diego Padres and Boston Red Sox, but still a bat that makes contact, a bat that you figure can drive in some runs, and more importantly can provide a veteran presence in the clubhouse. This is going to be an improved offense from a season ago due to the additions. Yoenis Cespedes, hopefully he can stay healthy for the majority of the season. Michael Conforto was so good last season, although he's going to start the year on the DL. You certainly feel for David Wright. He is pushing and pushing and pushing to get back. We don't know if he'll ever play a Major League Baseball game again, but tip your cap, he continues to effort his way back. Obviously, the strength of this team comes from the starting rotation. Syndergaard, DeGrom, Matz, Harvey, and you could throw either Jason Vargas or Lugo in that 5th spot. Pick and choose. Mickey Callaway in his first year coming over after a number of seasons under Terry Francona as pitching coach of the Cleveland Indians. Back into the bullpen is questionable with Familia at the closer spot. Anthony Swarzak supposed to serve as the 7th, 8th inning guy along with maybe Jerry Blevins as well. So that's a point for concern taking a look at the bullpen with the New York Mets. They will score runs. They will give you some production out of the rotation, but can that rotation stay healthy? It seemed like all of them at one point or another in 2017 were hurt.
Yeah, I just feel, and I know Vargas is hurt with a right hand fracture. I do see when he's back healthy, Jason Vargas probably being the 3rd or 4th guy in that rotation in New York. All-star last year. He's just solid with his stuff. Not the most overpowering guy, but he eats up innings. You need a guy to eat up innings for you because Matt Harvey is not the Dark Knight what he once was of years past. What is he going to bring back in 2018? Is he going to be effective, or the guy that was depressed, my girl left me for somebody else, I'm Matt Harvey? That's not cool, bro. I'm not sure what you're going to get from him. So hopefully if he get at least half what he once was, that's the best bet for Callaway in the Mets in 2018.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there. A lot of people have surrounded the Mets with semi-high expectations. I don't know if I'm in agreement with them, but I think if everything goes right for this team and
they could be a slow sleeper.
Into the bullpen pieces overachieve, maybe a second wild card team potentially. I just don't see it right now.
That's a big stretch.
Taking a look at the Philadelphia Phillies. A lot of people are picking the Phillies and dubbing the Phillies as a Cinderella team here in 2018, bringing in Carlos Santana in the offseason, also adding Jake Arrieta at the beginning of spring training. It's a team with a lot of good young pieces. Ryan Hoskins, left fielder.
The August phenom of last year.
Mashed baseballs just about everywhere. Our boy J.P. Crawford,
yes, sir.
Long Beach native, finally expected to be a part of this team. Scott Kingery, the 23-year-old who absolutely tore it up in the minor leagues last season and in spring training, received a big 6-year, $24 million contract extension, and he has yet to step onto a major league field, although he is expected to start on opening day tomorrow. Abdul Herrera is a good piece in the outfield. A lot of question marks surrounding the bullpen. I've said that about everybody today. But the rotation, Aaron Nola, Jake Arrieta, Pivetta, Velasquez, there are some electrifying arms in this rotation that could make things interesting for the Phillies. I just think they're a couple of years away.
I think about at least 3 years away. They have talent, and they spent some money on Arrieta and Santana.
3 years, $60 million for Carlos Santana.
And $75 for Arrieta after a down year last year. Former Cy Young 2 years ago.
Could go down as a questionable move.
Yeah.
Phillies,
Yikes.
A lot of people think, hey, maybe second wild card. We're thinking, hey,
probably third,
maybe next year.
Probably third place team in NL East.
Miami, the Marlins, disastrous offseason.
Yikes.
Complete rebuild, tear it apart, take out the home run sculpture in left center.
Yeah.
I don't expect much from this team. A lot of scouts love the potential of Luis Brinson, who was acquired in that Christian Yelich deal.
Mm-hmm.
He tore it up this spring, hit .328 with a couple homers, 20 hits in Grapefruit League play. He might be a bright spot for this team. Cameron Maben's back. Mm-hmm. Starlin Castro manning second base.
He almost left them when he first got signed by them, or got traded to them from New York for Stanton. He said, well, I'll be leader to the guys we have, which ain't much. But
so don't expect much out of the Marlins.
Yeah.
Braves, probably
similar.
Similar. I don't think they're going to be as bad as Miami.
They do have some talent, though, on the left side of the infield with
Yes.
Swanson and Ruiz, both
Ruiz, and of course,
some names from college.
Where is Robert Acuna Jr. gonna fit into this team? He doesn't look. He doesn't appear on the starting depth chart at the moment, but certainly if he is not on the opening day roster and isn't in the opening day starting lineup, he will be a guy that will make an impact before long for this Atlanta Braves team. In fact, it does look like he is going to start the season in AAA, but this is a guy that I could see being called up as early as late April. And
yes,
I mean he's going to be a National League Rookie of the Year candidate. Julio Teheran, Michael Foltynewicz, Brandon McCarthy, Sean Newcomb, some intriguing options in the starting rotation. Not many names you'll know of in the back end of the bullpen. The closer to start the season is expected to be Aroydis Vizcaíno, the 27-year-old who posted a nice 2017 with a 2.83 earned run average. Did close down 14 games and 17 opportunities for Atlanta, but not a team that's going to come within sniffing distance of a postseason spot.
Again, they're 3 years away or 4.
So who do you like in the National League East, Jay?
Nationals.
Of course. No brainer.
Yeah, it's easy.
No brainer. I think you're delusional if you think the Nationals aren't going to win the East. And it's such a big year with Bryce Harper potentially walking at the conclusion of the season. It's a big year for the Washington Nationals. We're going to get into our World Series matchup prediction and our World Series outcome prediction, but first, let's get to our MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, and bold predictions. We'll start with the American League. Who do you like and why? MVP.
Again, with a biased answer because I am a Bombers fan. I just think with Yankee Stadium's ballpark is so friendly to Stanton because he can go to right field in a heartbeat, and it's a glorified backyard porch. That's at least 20 home runs for him right there, going to right field the other way in New York. You go on to Baltimore, that's a friendly ballpark for a hitter. Boston, same way for Stanton. He might get 55 again this year. So that's my guy as MVP in AL.
I like Mike Trout. Even though I don't have the Angels at the moment slotted into a postseason spot, I think they're going to come up awfully close in the wild card. And, I mean, that hasn't mattered in 2016. The Angels weren't all that close to the postseason.
Right.
They did win the American League West in his first MVP campaign in 2014. I think he's the best player in Major League Baseball.
When healthy.
When healthy, and he's just getting better year by year. And he's just fun to watch. It's special to see him doing the things he has done since breaking into the league. I think he's going to have the best year of his career if he can stay healthy from start to finish in 2018. He's my pick for AL MVP. My pick for National League MVP, I like Nolan Arenado of the
Same.
Colorado. Boy, we didn't even, we skipped over?
Who?
Our NL wildcard picks.
Oh.
Who do you have? Real quick.
Wild card picks, Dodgers and Brewers.
I got the Cardinals and Rockies. I got the Cardinals and Rockies in the wild card game. How did we miss that? We spent too much time talking about
bullpens,
the Miami Marlins, and the Atlanta Braves. Okay, I like Arenado. I think with all those names in the starting lineup for Colorado, he's just going to flourish in the middle of that batting order this season.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to put up a monster campaign if he can stay healthy. Health pending. Who do you like in the NL?
To win the whole thing?
No, MVP.
Oh, MVP. Arenado, same.
You like Arenado?
Big fan, no Arenado.
Cy Young, AL.
Not a big fan of Boston, but I really like Chris Sale's stuff. He's a really good pitcher. When he's on his mark, he was on the first half. In the playoffs, he just was a shell of himself. He didn't seem confident. This wasn't him. I just think he'll have a good year start to finish. I think he'll be the Cy Young in the AL this year.
I got to agree with you there. I got Chris Sale as my American League Cy Young Award. National League Cy Young Award, heavy Nationals this year. I like Max Scherzer going back-to-back.
As a bit of a bold pick, I like the Professor Kyle Hendricks.
Really?
Yeah. He's like their third guy in rotation, but I think he has the stuff to be a sleeper Cy Young pick this year.
Really? I can't argue with that, especially when you slot him in between Yu Darvish
and Lester
and
sometimes Quintana as well.
I like it. It's not terribly bold, but I don't think a lot of people would have
it wouldn't hurt.
The former Dartmouth Big Green
yes.
as the Cy Young. All right, Rookie of the Year, American League, who you got?
Willie Calhoun. I think it'll be just a fine spot for Dodgers this year when he's called up. So we'll see.
I like
who you like?
I like Willie Calhoun as well. I think that's going to be looked upon as one of the worst trades that Andrew Friedman made, sending Calhoun over to Texas for.
Thank you for clarification, by the way.
for you, this is the most crapshoot pick every year is Rookie of the Year going into the season because nobody knows anything about these guys because they're unproven at the major league level. I think Calhoun hitting in the bandbox that is Globe Life Park. I think he's going to thrive. I think
it's like your backyard in Los Alamitos, Chris.
Exactly. I like Willie Calhoun in the AL. My National League Rookie of the Year is Walker Buehler. He'll start the season in AAA OKC for the Dodgers, but I think the Dodgers are going to need him sooner rather than later.
How soon, you think?
End of April, beginning of May. Up for good.
Worst bet, you would think, what, mid-May, July? June at the latest, you think?
June latest.
That's a tall task. That's a lot of pressure on.
Give me one bold prediction each league, AL, NL.
Bold prediction? I said one earlier with my young Twins, man. The AL Central, that's a bold pick. I do have a unique one. The Diamondbacks, keep this in mind. If they are not in the hunt, I see Greinke with that new contract saying bye-bye and going to the NL East. He might go to Philly.
Really?
As a hunch. I mean, you've seen Philly pay for Arrieta and Santana, so they're going for it, I guess, for now, not for soon to be 2 years from now. So if they have the money for it, why not?
My bold predictions, I don't think the Baltimore Orioles will be in that playoff conversation come the trade deadline, so I think they say goodbye to Manny Machado and they send him to the St. Louis Cardinals.
Really?
And that helps the Cardinals get to the National League wild card game. The Mets are going to finish at least 10 games under 500.
Wow. The Mets.
That's my bold prediction in the National League. And the moment that everybody, all 3 million, is that what it says? Reading right here?
Yes, 3 million.
3 million plus has been waiting for who we got in the World Series, and who is your World Series champion, and how many games?
I have New York, the AL, the Yankees against the Nationals of Washington, and I have the Yankees in 5 games.
I also have the same matchup, except I like the fighting Bryce Harpers to get it done. I like the Nationals in 6 games over the New York Yankees in the 2018 World Series. Hey, this show is likely going to be for the paper shredder come tomorrow. Who knows what's going to happen over the course of a 162-game regular season. But thanks so much for listening to the 2018 MLB preview and prediction show here on Spreaker.com's own National Sports. For Jay Holloway at Twitter at BLAQ Vince Scully. My name is Chris Sylvester on Twitter at Chris Sylvester _. And this is Spreaker.com's own National Sports. Charge!